Have you ever, like, started a brand new hobby or maybe you took on a new role at work, and within that first hour, you just thought, wow, I am an absolute natural at this?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. But then, only to realize a few weeks later that you were actually objectively terrible.
It's a universally humbling experience. I mean,
Sure.
you go from feeling like an absolute prodigy to feeling like you have two left feet in, like record time.
It really is. And I mean, the craziest part is how genuine that initial confidence actually feels.
Yeah, you aren't pretending.
Exactly. Your brain is fully convinced you are just crushing it. So, welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to decode that exact journey.
Right.
We want to look at the hidden mechanics behind how we master any new skill, going from that blissful ignorance all the way to absolute effortless fluency.
And we've got a really fascinating mix of sources for this deep dive.
We really do.
Instead of just looking at one narrow field, we are pulling from corporate frameworks like the 70-20-10 learning model.
Which is super interesting.
Yeah, and we're blending it with the psychology of the Dunning-Kruger effect and even looking at some incredibly revealing performance data from sports specifically, like tennis, golf, and pickleball.
Because honestly, the journey of learning is remarkably consistent. I mean, whether you're trying to hit a cross-court forehand or, manage a multi-million-dollar software launch, the process is the same.
It really is. And that initial crash you just described, going from feeling like a natural to realizing you are terrible, it's not a personal failure.
Right.
It's actually the necessary first step in this highly documented psychological progression that researchers call the 4 stages of competence.
Knowing that is honestly such a huge relief because, I mean, if we want to understand how we actually achieve mastery, we have to start by understanding why our brains are so prone to wildly overestimating our abilities on day one.
Yeah,
We literally start out in a phase where we just do not know what we do not know.
precisely. You are entirely unconscious of your own incompetence.
Right. So let's use the pickleball example from the sources because honestly, it paints the picture so well for this first stage.
It's the perfect analogy.
So imagine you step onto a pickleball court for the very first time. The court looks relatively small compared to like a tennis court.
Yeah.
And the paddle is basically just a giant ping pong paddle. And the ball is plastic and it's slow.
It doesn't look intimidating at all.
Exactly. So you manage to dink it over the net a few times and you get this massive hit of dopamine. Your brain instantly goes, oh, I have a gift for this.
But you only feel that way because you have absolutely zero idea what a third shot drop is.
Right.
You don't know the physics of court positioning or the kitchen rules or, how to put topspin on the ball. You are completely blind to the actual complexity of the game.
And what's fascinating here is that this isn't just arrogance, right? It's an actual cognitive blind spot.
Exactly. This perfectly illustrates the mechanics behind the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Oh.
When David Dunning and Justin Kruger mapped out this phenomenon, they pointed out that novices suffer from this, they call it a dual burden.
A dual burden. Okay, break that down for us.
Well, first, they obviously lack the specific skills to perform the task well. But second, and far more importantly, that exact same lack of knowledge deprives them of the ability to evaluate their own performance.
Okay, wait, let's unpack this for a second. So let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around that.
Yeah.
You're saying the tool you need to judge your skill level is the exact same tool you use to actually do the skill.
Exactly. Yes. The psychological term for this is metacognition. It's your ability to step back and evaluate your own thinking and your execution.
Okay.
If you don't know the rules of good grammar or logic or, say, advanced project management, you simply don't have the mental framework to realize you are breaking those rules.
So you're just trapped in this illusion of competence.
Right. Some researchers describe this in pretty academic terms, framing the novice as a naive statistician running a flawed probability model.
Okay, but let's translate that for those of us who don't dream in statistics. Like, what is our brain actually doing in that exact moment?
Well, think of your brain like a jury that only gets to hear the defense's opening statement.
Okay, I like that.
As a functioning adult, your general baseline belief is that you are a capable, intelligent person. That's your prior assumption.
Sure.
Now, you step into a completely new domain like pickleball or a new software system. Because you don't know the rules, you have absolutely zero contradictory evidence.
You don't see your mistakes because you don't know what a mistake even looks like in this context.
Exactly. So combining your general sense of competence with a total lack of negative feedback, the jury returns an obvious verdict. I am doing great.
That makes total sense, but I mean, it also sounds a bit terrifying.
It can be.
If we are completely blind to our own incompetence and our brain is like actively running interference to protect our ego, how do we ever snap out of it? Do we just have to wait until we completely humiliate ourselves and match against a pro?
Well, you don't have to wait for humiliation, but you do need an external catalyst.
Okay.
And this is where we can bring in the 70-20-10 learning model.
Right, the corporate framework.
Yeah, it's used heavily in professional development to explain how capability actually develops.
Hmm.
It suggests that growth is a blend. 70% from experiential learning, 20% from social exposure, and 10% from formal education.
Got it.
To break out of that initial illusion, you usually need an injection of that first 30%, the formal and the social.
Okay, let me push back on that model for a second, though, because isn't breaking human learning down into exact percentages like 70, 20, and 10 a bit, I don't know, too rigid?
It is very precise.
Yeah, it sounds like a very corporate HR formula. Does it really apply to literally everything we learn?
It's a fair critique, and to be honest, you shouldn't view it as a strict mathematical law. It's more of a heuristic.
Okay.
The real value isn't the exact math. It's the sequence and the weight of how we actually shed our ignorance.
Yeah.
Think about that 10% formal learning.
Right.
This is reading the pickleball rulebook or, taking an introductory certification course for your new job. It's basically reading the manual.
Right, and obviously reading the manual doesn't make you an expert.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
But it gives you the shared vocabulary of your own ignorance.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
It establishes a baseline framework so your brain suddenly realizes, oh, there is an entire depth to this subject that I wasn't accounting for.
But the real bubble burster, the thing that truly shatters the illusion, is the 20% social learning, right? I mean, the sources highlight this beautifully. It's exposure to others.
Yes, social learning is the ultimate reality check.
It's when you sit in on a high-level steering committee at work and you just watch a senior colleague effortlessly navigate a hostile stakeholder.
Yeah.
Or it's watching an advanced player execute a perfect reset shot on the court. It's visceral.
It really is.
It provides an immediate, undeniable contrast to your own abilities. And that exposure forcefully shoves you into the second phase of the journey, which is conscious incompetence.
And that phase is deeply, deeply uncomfortable.
Oh, I bet.
The illusion is completely gone. You now know exactly what good looks like, but your hands, your feet, or your professional workflows simply cannot execute it yet.
Yeah, it's the moment of, like, tearful clarity in the car ride home.
Exactly.
Maybe a more experienced player gently explained your positioning errors,
Yeah.
or a manager just tore apart your first major presentation. The gap between your taste, what you now know is the actual standard, and your current ability is glaringly obvious.
Which perfectly explains why research shows this exact stage has the highest dropout rate of any phase of learning.
Oh, really? The highest dropout rate?
Absolutely. The cognitive dissonance is exhausting.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, this discomfort is the absolute prerequisite for real growth.
Right, because you can't fix a gap that you can't see.
Exactly.
So, assuming we don't just quit during the car ride home, we transition into the hardest part of the journey, the grind.
The grind.
We know we're bad, we know what good looks like, so how do we actually close the gap?
By entering the third phase, which is conscious competence.
Yeah.
And this relies heavily on the massive final chunk of our learning model, the 70% experiential or applied learning.
Okay.
This is doing the actual work.
And doing the work at this stage requires a monumental amount of mental energy. The sources highlight this specific detail, and I found it so relatable. It's that quiet, running, mental checklist in your head.
Oh, yeah.
During a rally, you're constantly telling yourself, paddle up, bend your knees, soft hands, breathe. And the second you lose focus, the ball flies into the net.
Yep.
Or at work, you're triple checking your email tone and double referencing your spreadsheets because the process isn't natural yet.
That mental exhaustion you're describing is cognitive load.
Cognitive load.
Yes. Your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain responsible for active problem solving, is maxed out. Working memory can only hold a handful of variables at once.
Right.
So when you're manually trying to coordinate your feet, your paddle angle, the wind, and your opponent's position, your brain is literally burning a massive amount of glucose.
But the sources are also really clear that just putting in the 70% experiential time isn't enough to progress. Like, if I just go out and mindlessly hit a tennis ball for 100 hours, I'm not necessarily going to reach mastery, am I?
Absolutely not. Mindless repetition just cements bad habits.
Okay.
If you practice a flawed swing 1,000 times, You just become an expert at swinging poorly.
Right.
Experience only translates into growth when it is highly intentional.
Mm.
And this brings us back to metacognition, specifically what the research calls action-oriented metacognition.
I love the analogy of driving a car for this from the
Oh,
sources.
it's great.
So if cognition, the actual experience, is turning the steering wheel and pressing the gas, then metacognition is the GPS system.
Exactly.
The GPS plans the route before you start, it alerts you to traffic in real time while you're driving, and it recalculates the moment you make a wrong turn.
That's the perfect visualization for it. High-performance teams and elite athletes use a continuous cycle of plan, do, review.
Plan, do, review.
Right. They don't just act. They step outside themselves to evaluate the action. Before the meeting, they plan their approach. During the meeting, they monitor the room's reaction. After the meeting, they review what worked and what failed.
But realistically, doing all of the self-monitoring while your prefrontal cortex is already maxed out just trying to survive the task, it sounds impossible. Like, my brain hurts just thinking about doing all of that at once.
It is nearly impossible to do alone effectively, which is exactly why coaching and mentorship are so critical at this stage.
Ah, okay.
The data on this is striking. One of the sources references a study tracking tennis players trying to move through this exact phase.
Okay, what did they find?
The players who tried to learn entirely on their own, relying purely on their own self-monitoring and internal GPS system, took an average of 7 months to progress through this stage.
Wow, 7 months. And the ones who used coaches?
They made the exact same jump in just 3 months,
3 months.
more than twice as fast.
Because the coach acts as an external GPS.
Exactly. The coach offloads the metacognitive burden. They stand on the sidelines and say, hey, don't worry about your feet right now, just focus on your wrist.
Right.
They break massive, overwhelming skills down into manageable micro goals. And crucially, they manage the emotional frustration. They keep you in that optimal zone of development so you don't just burn out and quit.
Okay, so let's say you put in the time. You do the 70% experiential grind, you lean on coaches, you run your plan, do, review cycles. Eventually, that heavy cognitive load starts to lift, right?
Because
The required glucose drops. And that ushers you into the final, seemingly magical phase, which is unconscious competence.
the promised land of learning.
This is automaticity. The skill literally shifts physical locations in your brain, right?
It does.
It moves out of the working memory of the prefrontal cortex and gets hardwired into your basal ganglia, which is the habit center.
That's right. The neural pathways become so insulated and efficient that the behavior bypasses active thought entirely.
It's like hitting that effortless reset shot in pickleball before you even consciously realize your opponent hit the ball.
Exactly.
Or, in a professional setting, it's the seasoned project manager who seamlessly multitasks, navigates complex stakeholder politics, and mitigates risks under intense pressure, all while drinking their morning coffee. It just flows.
It is a beautiful state to reach, but there is a hidden, dangerous trap to mastery.
A trap.
Yeah.
Oh.
Unconscious competence has a dark side.
Which sounds completely counterintuitive. I mean, how can effortless mastery be a liability?
Because of how the brain optimizes. When a skill becomes second nature and shifts into the basal ganglia, experts often forget how hard it was to learn in the first place.
Oh.
Psychologists call this the curse of knowledge. Their execution is so automatic that they can no longer articulate the individual micro steps required to perform the task.
I have experienced this firsthand. You ask a brilliant expert, wow, how did you solve that? And they just shrug and say, I don't know, it just made sense to do it that way. Which is incredibly unhelpful if you are a beginner desperately trying to learn their process.
Exactly. It makes brilliant performers terrible teachers.
Yeah.
But it's actually worse than just being a bad teacher.
How so?
Getting too comfortable on that final stage can lead to severe skill atrophy.
Oh.
Because you aren't actively thinking about your technique anymore, the environment might shift around you, or your execution might slowly degrade over time, and you would have absolutely no internal mechanism to notice it.
So without realizing it, you slip right back to the beginning. You develop a brand new form of unconscious incompetence where you don't even know that your skills have gotten rusty or outdated.
Precisely. And to prevent that, we have to loop our learning model all the way back to the 20%,
Yeah.
the social learning.
Okay.
To combat the trap of mastery, the sources introduce a concept called the Johari window.
The Johari window. Let's break down how that actually works for the listener.
Sure. It's a psychological framework for mapping self-awareness. Imagine a window with 4 panes.
Okay, 4 panes.
These panes categorize your personal attributes based on what is known to you versus what is known to others.
Got it.
You have the open area things both you and others know, the hidden area secrets you keep, the unknown area. But the most critical pain for an expert is the blind spot.
Ah, the blind spot. Things that are clearly visible to everyone else, but completely invisible to you.
Yes, these are behaviors, flaws, or degrading skills that your autopilot brain is just ignoring.
Because you're just cruising along. So how do we force ourselves to see the blind spot? The sources heavily emphasize 360-degree feedback as the ultimate intervention here, right?
It's the most effective tool we have. 360-degree feedback gathers structured, anonymous input from every direction: your boss, your peers, your direct reports, and even external clients.
Let me throw a real-world messy scenario at you, though. Let's say you have an incredibly talented, unconsciously competent leader. They get their 360 review, and the data clearly shows they have a terrible habit of shutting down junior team members in meetings. But the leader reads it and says, "Nah, this team is just overly sensitive. My leadership style's fine. What's happening there?"
That is the ego's defense mechanism kicking into overdrive.
Right.
Stepping out of unconscious competence and looking at your blind spot forces you back into conscious incompetence regarding your interpersonal skills. And as we established, conscious incompetence feels awful.
It's the tearful car ride home all over again.
Exactly. The leader's brain is trying to reject the uncomfortable truth to protect their identity as an expert.
But if they actually want to grow, they have to lean into that discomfort. The 360 review forces the blind spot into the light. It basically breaks the autopilot.
Exactly. It restarts the entire engine of learning. It forces the expert to re-engage their metacognition, to pull the skill back into their prefrontal cortex, and to start planning, doing, and reviewing their actions all over again.
Wow.
It is the only way to keep mastery dynamic and evolving rather than stagnant and brittle.
So, stepping back and looking at the entire picture we've painted today, I think the biggest takeaway is that learning is absolutely not a straight line. It is a constant, repeating evolution.
It is a spiral.
Right, a spiral. You start in blissful, unaware ignorance. You get a harsh dose of painful awareness. You put your head down for the exhausting, focused grind. And finally, you break through to intuitive mastery, and that entire engine is driven by intentionally blending your learning sources. You need the formal knowledge to give you the blueprint, the social feedback to reveal your blind spots, and the intentional, reflect-upon experience to physically rewire your brain.
It really reframes the struggle, doesn't it?
It really does.
Feeling deeply incompetent isn't a sign that you should stop. It's the neurological signal that the actual work of learning has finally started.
Which brings us to a really important final thought for you, the listener. If you take one thing away from this deep dive, consider this challenge.
Think about the absolute best skill you possess right now. Maybe it's a core function of your job that you've done for a decade, or, a hobby you just absolutely dominate. Ask yourself, are you so unconsciously competent at it that you've developed a new blind spot?
This week, we challenge you to ask a trusted colleague, a mentor, or a friend for some unvarnished, honest feedback. Ask them what you're missing. You might just discover a brand new level of conscious incompetence waiting to be conquered.
And who knows?
Right. Having the courage to ask might just save you from stepping onto the court thinking you're a natural while everyone else is wondering why you don't even know the rules.